speaking of prison labor from our earlier story, Bloomberg, the richest guy in the race, $50 billion. He can afford everything. He's buying candidate agents and everyone working in other people's campaigns for far more than they're being paid. But you have a story where that isn't all the way
How is this going to come back to prison somehow?
Yeah.
Well,
What's going on?
While we're, all running around like our hair's on fire about the Uyghurs in Western China because, they're being imprisoned, Michael Bloomberg is going through companies that do his robocalling and using prison labor to do it. So he's using a company called Procom, which is a New Jersey-based call center which contracts inmates in New Jersey and Oklahoma in these two call centers. So it's using state prison inmates to do robocalls for Bloomberg. Now, what's interesting, the article notes that they're legally required because of the type of ad it is to say that that is a message that is approved by Mike Bloomberg. But they're not allowed to say that they are currently making that call from prison. So the campaign is trying to distance themselves from this very quickly. It leaves me the impression that they didn't realize they were just going with the cheapest rate and that Procom was not exactly forthcoming with the fact that they were using prison labor for this. But it is not a good look, right? This is Bloomberg, Mr. Billionaire, throwing money at stuff because he can. That's his MO. Like, he can throw money at problems. And when you look at the money that you're throwing at the problem, sometimes you're looking at the balance sheet and you're not looking at the whole picture. But it's the rank corruption within the whole system that the easiest way to throw money at a problem is to use prison labor to do it. Now you're using prison labor to make advertising phone calls for somebody running for political office. Boy, that looks bad. And this is the person that is so oblivious to all of those things that look bad and how his money and bottom line thinking ruins so much shit. And here he is letting bottom line thinking ruin his own campaign. It's just the irony is too good.
Well,
I love it.
We don't have Kamala the cop anymore, so Bloomberg's like, I got to fill in that gap. It's my niche. I got to fill it in. So this is wonderful. This is really something. This is Bloomberg spending money and showing that he is simultaneously willing to buy out operatives of other campaigns because I suppose they're valuable and it's a competitive advantage if you can double or triple someone's salary. I think he's brought on most of Kamala's staff at this point. So I guess why not use prison labor, which is still slave labor, to get things done. It's really funny that they have to have Michael Bloomberg. So you don't know. If you're getting a call and you hear from Michael Bloomberg, just ask, hey, are you in prison right now? Are you okay? Can I send you a bottle of water? Something like that. Because I know bottle of water costs, $50 now if you're in a for-profit prison, which is, I would assume, where most of these are coming from. Because if it's not, do we know if this is for-profit or state prisons? Because if it's state prisons, I have extra issues with this whole process.
I think these are state prisons.
I have extra issues with this whole process.
All right,
now.
Go for it.
So now we're effectively saying that the government will offer you slave labor to help your political campaign get off the ground, and they will offer you the best captive eyes, ears, and mouths to push your message forward. If it's a for-profit prison, then at least it's terrible and makes sense that, okay, they're trying to make money, Bloomberg wants to make a contract, and they're going through with a contract, and the prisoners are being used as slave labor and getting paid nothing.
So they're both state prisons and they're both in Oklahoma.
Okay, so in this case, now the real thing is Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma is now overtly assisting Bloomberg's campaign. That's terrible.
So this article, this is interesting. Prison labor has been used in a federal election in at least one other occasion. In 1994, the late Republican congressman from Washington State, Jack Metcalf, used prison labor to make campaign calls and was subsequently elected to Congress, where he served 3 terms. So this is maybe the kind of thing that if people don't focus on it too much, it's not going to be made that big of a deal of. But in a run for president, when you literally were a Republican until you entered this race, that's going to sting a little bit.
Yeah, and I just want to add this last thing. For people, and I see a couple people in chat going like, well, it's, not Bloomberg's fault. How could have he known? If you are worth $50 billion, that's not an excuse that you get to make. You have the money to hire a fleet of people that you can fill a private plane with, whose entire job it is to verify your contracts. And that you have enough money for that to be a financial no-brainer. So the fact that he didn't figure this out, it's not him.
The article puts that this way. So Friedman said that whether or not Bloomberg's campaign knew about the arrangement with Procom, it was responsible. Quote, "It's entirely possible they didn't know," Friedman told me. But that's like saying department stores making clothes in Southeast Asia didn't know that 5-year-olds are stitching together their soccer balls. Well, shouldn't you know? Shouldn't you have some idea about your supply stream or what your downside supply stream is doing?
That's what I'm saying. That literally, if you had, again, just one person, I was making the joke, you can make a private plane full, but just one person that goes, okay, I'm going to go to where these calls are. Let me just verify this contract. That's all you need. The only way you don't know these things is if you're trying to not know these things, just like with a sweatshop labor with children. The only way you don't know that is if you don't send someone to go to the factory that makes your clothes.
Also, imagine running a campaign and being like, I need to call people for advertising. That'll be the thing. And you can't go to your supporters, the most enthusiastic people
a good point.
about your campaign, and be like, I need people. I'm going to do my Bernie Sanders. I need people to make phone calls. I need people to donate $27 of their money to this campaign because we're starting a revolution. I do a terrible Bernie Sanders, right? But that's the idea, right? If you can't turn to your supporters and say, you want this campaign to work? We need more of you. Get on the phone. Here's a list. Here are the organizers. Go knock on doors. Let's do this. Let's get a ground game going. If your campaign is, I've got enough money to pay a company to pay X number of people to make X number of phone calls, every day between now and the election, that's just a number of phone calls. That's not a number of phone calls from enthusiastic supporters who will make the case well. That's not a real mobility behind your campaign. Sorry.
And I want to add that, you know who they should bring? That one guy that was parked, that I was parked nearby on a couple days ago at the zoo. This is the only, I took a picture because it blew my mind. You clearly can't see but it's someone, a Bloomberg sign. It's the only one I've seen in the entire city of Chicago. So yeah, that's a really good point that I had not thought of. If you're a real campaign in the modern era, you should have supporters that are more than willing to spend the time to do it. But if all your supporters are worth $100,000 plus, their time is, I guess, more valuable, and it's just not worth it. So why not get slave labor from prisons to take care of it for you? Yeah. Okay.
That's the thing. And that's how they do it.
It is, for sure, and sadly.